Oh wow. Just imagine that moment. They built him like a flawless machine. An unstoppable shadow, silent and deadly, the coldest blade slicing through the darkest night without a flicker of hesitation. Everyone trembled at the mere mention of his name. Everyone bowed to his chilling silence because he was the end of every story he touched. The weapon they unleashed to erase you, to crush your dreams before they could even breathe. But here's the twist that sends a shiver down the spine. They never realized that silence isn't the sound of weakness. No, it's a roaring storm waiting to explode with a force that shakes the very ground beneath their feet. Sometimes the quietest souls carry the deadliest power, the kind that sneaks up like a shadow but hits with the force of a hurricane. You. Yes, you. The broken one. The forgotten one. The one they laughed at, mocked and dismissed like you were nothing. Inside you, something fierce was growing. A fire, silent but unyielding, burning hotter with every doubt they threw your way. And when he came for you, that perfect killer, the supposed end of your tale, guess what? It was only the beginning. Because you didn't fight with loud anger or fiery words. You fought with patience, with a chilling, sharp silence forged from being pushed so far beyond the edge that breaking wasn't even an option anymore. And then in one quiet, breathless moment, you turned that hunter to dust. Not just survive. No. This is a powerful, raw transformation. A phoenix rising from the ashes with a quiet fury so intense no one saw it coming. The kind of story that shakes the soul and flips the script forever. Oh, the delicious irony of it all. They didn't just underestimate you. They erased you before the game even began. Like you were a ghost they pretended didn't exist. You weren't even on their radar, just a shadow in the background. The character they never bothered to flesh out. The forgotten name in a story they wrote to fail. They sat in their fancy rooms, making decisions without your presence. Whispering your name like it was a punchline, laughing behind closed doors, convinced you didn't have the strength to fight, to rise, or to matter. And for a moment, maybe you believed them too. You were quiet, lost, bleeding on the inside while wearing a smile that barely touched your eyes. But here's the kicker. Something deep inside refused to die. That flicker of life kept you watching, kept you walking, kept you breathing through the storm. While they tried to bury you in silence, you were busy writing your own story, the one they could never erase. They thought pain would be your end. But no, pain became your blueprint, the foundation of your rise. Rejection? It didn't silence you, it taught you how to roar louder. They thought you'd break, but what they failed to see was that you had already been shattered, and when there's nothing left to lose, fear loses its grip. Do you feel that? That raw, dangerous power. When someone stands at the edge and keeps moving forward, they don't return the same. They come back weaponized. Wild, invisible, but utterly undeniable. That's exactly who you are. You let them laugh, you let them count you out. You let them polish their golden boy while you swallowed shards of glass and grew tougher on the taste of your own grit. Because you knew what they didn't. Easy beginnings make soft end. They sent their flawless weapon after you, but really they just sent a killer to a survivor. Survivors, they've faced hell itself and come out unburned. They don't fear fire anymore because they are You didn't rise just to prove them wrong. You rose because staying down meant agreeing with their lies. And you were never built to accept falsehoods. So when they looked away, laughed one last time, and sent their hunter to erase your final page, they didn't realize you held the pen now. And this time you weren't writing your end. You were writing theirs. He was trained for speed. You were forged in darkness. He was sure of his success. You were calm in your chaos. He never failed. But you failed so many times that failure lost its power over you. And that's the scariest truth of all. A person who no longer fears losing. They thought you were easy to erase. But when the moment came, you didn't just resist. You rewrote their story. the one they thought was theirs alone. Now, they don't laugh, they don't whisper, they don't send their weapons. They remember your silence, your comeback, and how you made their perfect creation vanish without ever raising your voice. Wow. Just picture it. He was built like a machine, shiny and flawless like some perfect shadow in the dead of night. They programmed him to obey without question, to execute with cold precision, without the messy burden of feeling or doubt. His entire existence was boiled down to one thing: eliminate, erase, extinguish. No past, no story, just a tool designed to disappear people like you. They trained him to move fast, to strike without hesitation, to shut off every ounce of empathy. He knew how to break bones, but never learned what it meant to carry a broken heart. He could slice through enemies, but never faced the relentless battles life threw at the broken and the lost. But you were made from a different mold. You weren't crafted in some sterile lab or rehearsed for perfection. You were shaped in chaos, carved out by fire and struggle. Every scar you carry isn't a simulation, it's real. It's proof of battles fought in the dark, far from any spotlight. You weren't handed a roadmap. You crawled, stumbled, and fought until you carved your own path from the ruins. You took the silence that surrounded you and turned it into your greatest weapon, your strategy. They threw you into flames, expecting you to melt, but instead you forged yourself anew. Tougher, sharper, unbreakable. While he was built to destroy, you were built to endure. That's the line that separates you from him. He only ever knew how to win. You, however, mastered how to suffer and still show up every day. He was clean and sharp, but you were messy and resilient. He was fast, but you were unbreakable. You survived loneliness, rejection, disrespect, being invisible in a world that rewards the loudest voices. And instead of breaking, you grew teeth. Instead of quitting, you got quieter. Not weaker, but laser focused. So when he finally arrived thinking he was coming for an easy target, he found someone he never expected. You weren't soft, you weren't scared. You weren't standing where they left you. You had become something else. Danger wrapped in silence. He was trained to end others, but he never learned what to do when the other side doesn't flinch. Because real endurance isn't just about taking punches, it's about absorbing them, learning from them, turning them into weapons of your own. While he was trained to deliver death in seconds, you survived wars that lasted years. He was celebrated, you were ignored. He was praised, you were punished. He was given everything, you earned everything. And when the final moment came, that tense standoff when time seemed to freeze, it wasn't his reflexes that won, it was your experience. The truth, no matter how sharp the weapon, if it's never been tested by real life, it breaks. And that's exactly what happened. He came to end you, but you had already survived worse, long before he showed up. His blade was quick, you were deeper. His pride was loud. Your silence was louder. He didn't understand what you'd become, not just a warrior, not just a survivor. Something darker, something older, something. You proved that suffering doesn't always make you soft. Sometimes it makes you unstoppable. They expected you to break, to shatter like glass under pressure. They were counting on you to snap, to scream, to beg, because that was their only shot at victory. It's what cowards do. They bet on your weakness, hoping you'll crumble under the weight of their attacks. But you didn't flinch, not once, not even a flicker in your eyes. And that silence, that unyielding calm, It terrified them more than any battle cry ever could. You didn't throw punches in return. You fought in a way they never anticipated. You fought with time, with quiet focus, with an iron will that refused to fall. Every blow they aimed at you didn't break you. It sharpened you. Every strike was absorbed, transformed, turned inside out, until it became your power. You didn't retaliate with fury or vengeance. You evolved in silence, steadily rebuilding yourself while they celebrated their premature victory dance. That's why when the moment came, when you finally stood tall, they were caught off guard. They never saw the storm brewing beneath your quiet exterior. Your resilience became your deadliest weapon, one they couldn't predict or defend again. Each moment you held your ground, each time you stayed calm instead of reacting, you were sharpening your edge, loading the chamber of your comeback. When you finally moved, you didn't need to shout or explain. Your presence alone shook the earth beneath their feet. Your success whispered every secret your silence carried. And suddenly all those times they mocked you, every insult and every snide remark, came back not as shame, but as fear. A haunting reminder that their judgment was blind. Because now the truth is clear to them. You were never weak. You were simply waiting for the perfect moment to show them that they weren't just mistaken. They were utterly blind to your strength. You didn't roar or cry out loud. You didn't seek chaos. Instead, you moved with the quiet confidence of a shadow, learning to walk boldly in the light, like a storm that holds back its fury until it's ready to unleash unstoppable force. And when you finally arrived, you didn't come seeking revenge. You came as living proof that silence is not surrender, that peace doesn't mean weakness, and that restraint is not defeat. Your rise shattered their illusions, not with noise or confrontation, but simply because you existed. That's what makes you truly dangerous. They prepared for war, but they weren't ready for a calm warrior, someone who doesn't need chaos to conquer, who builds empires from the ruins they left behind. They tried to bury you deep beneath their doubt and scorn, but you grew roots deep, strong, untouched. Now every step you take shakes the very ground they thought they controlled. You're not coming back for revenge. You're walking forward past them, and that wounds them deeper than any sword ever could. They are haunted now by the one they thought they destroyed, because resilience speaks louder than rage. And survival is the deadliest power of all. Names hold weight, heavy with history, expectation, and stories told in whispers and screams. The world called him the sharpest weapon, the perfect killer, the ghost who never missed his mark. They painted him like a legend, carved his name into headlines that made spines shiver and hearts freeze. He was untouchable, the symbol of precision and pure, unyielding fear. But here's the truth that shakes the ground beneath such legends. Names alone do not make legacies. While the world was busy worshiping a weapon designed to destroy, you were quietly, relentlessly crafting something far greater, something eternal. A legacy born, not from speed, not from fame, but from a quiet strength no one saw, a resilience forged in silence, and the raw, unbreakable power of surviving what others couldn't even imagine. Where he ended his missions, you began your transformation. His path was ruthless and fast, but yours was deep, slow, and utterly unstoppable. They handed him medals, respect, and the fear of many. But there was one thing they never gave him. What you created, an unbreakable story. Because legacy isn't about tallying wins. It's about how you carry your scars and keep moving forward. It's about turning every failure, every pain, every doubt into the stepping stones that build your empire. It's about making your silence roar louder than 1,000 words ever could. It's about proving that when you're pushed to the edge, when they try to bury you, you don't just survive, you thrive. And that's exactly what you did. You took their perfect weapon. You looked at his flawless record, the mask of control he wore so well. And without a single word, without a warning, you tore that mask apart. You showed the world what happens when the hunted becomes the hunter. His legacy was built on fear. Their story ends where yours begins, where silence is your language, where pain fuels your power, where invisibility is your shield. You didn't just turn him to dust, you became the shadow he could never outrun, the silence he never predicted, the legacy he never imagined. Now when they speak his name, it's with hesitation. When they recall his victories, they feel the weight of your rise. When they try to wield fear, they tremble before your shadow. Your legacy isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It's the quiet earthquake shaking their world, the calm before the storm, the whisper that builds into a roar. They gave him a name to control their fears. But you gave yourself a legacy that will outlast them all. Because true power isn't in being the sharpest weapon. It's in being the one who outlives the war. When they see your silence, they mistake it for emptiness, a hollow void waiting to be filled with noise or chaos. But silence is far from nothing. It's everything they never saw coming. The slow burning fire behind your calm smile. The quiet breath before the storm breaks loose. The stillness before the strike that changes everything. Silence is the deadliest weapon in the arsenal of those who refuse to be understood by their enemy. It's the secret that shatters assumptions and blindsides those who expect noise. They expect you to scream when you're angry, to lash out when you're hurt, to crumble when the weight is too heavy. But you've discovered a deeper truth. Silence is the loudest kind of strength. It's not about making noise to prove you exist. It's about holding your power so tightly, so unshakably, that even the loudest chaos around you becomes nothing but background noise. Your silence commands more respect than any battle cry ever could. Every time you held your tongue when they wanted to see you break, you were fueling a fire inside that no one could extinguish. Every moment you chose to watch, to wait, to stay patient, instead of reacting rashly. You gathered a hidden strength that no one else knew you had. Silence became your sharpening stone, your battlefield, your healing ground. It was built from every tear you swallowed, instead of shedding, every defeat you swallowed in secret, every fear you stared at head-on without flinching. That silence wasn't surrender. It was your fortress. They saw your silence as weakness, as giving up, but really it was a strategic retreat, a quiet gathering of all the forces they underestimated. When they sent their deadliest weapon to bury you, they forgot the first casualty would be their own expectation. Your silence shattered their certainty and tore apart the story they had written about you. And when the moment came for you to rise, your silence erupted like a storm they never saw coming. Unstoppable, unexpected, undeniable. Without a single shout, without a word, you became the force that defeated them. Your silence wasn't just your shield. It was the battlefield where you won. So never forget this. Their assumptions about you, they are their greatest weakness. Your silence, that is your true power. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't have to fight with fists to claim victory. Sometimes the fiercest battles are won in quiet moments, when the world thinks you are losing, but you are only gathering strength to rise. That quiet strength, that is the power no one can take from you. Every story worth telling has that shattering moment. The point when the world looks at you and coldly whispers, "It's over." When every door slams shut in your face, every hand that once held you lets go, and every voice that once believed now lowers in doubt. They decided your chapter had ended, but little did they know in that very moment they sealed their own fate. Because here's the raw, unbreakable truth. The instant they counted you out was the instant you found yourself. A silent, burning spark ignited inside you, a spark no one could see, but one that would soon set everything ablaze. They don't see it coming. How could they? They can't fathom that the broken can piece themselves back together, that the forgotten can rise from shadows, that the defeated can become undefeatable. But you were never meant to follow the script they wrote for you. You are the author of your own story, the force that tears up the old rules and writes new ones with every step you take. So when they declared you done, you became a storm in hiding, brewing quietly beneath a calm sky. You transformed their silence, their judgment, into a battle cry louder than any shout. You didn't need to raise your voice because your every action screamed with the power they refused to acknowledge. Every scar they carved on your soul became a medal. Every failure they forced upon you became the cornerstone of your empire. This isn't about petty revenge, it's about resurrection. Rising from ashes they believed were your grave. Rising for every moment they tried to erase your existence, for every whispered doubt, for every closed door. And when they look back, they won't find the broken soul they tried to bury. Instead, they'll see a hurricane, wild, unstoppable, born from the wreckage of doubt and pain. Your comeback doesn't scream for attention because it doesn't need to. It's steady, relentless, undeniable. The greatest revenge isn't in breaking others, it's in building yourself beyond their reach. They wanted to end your story, but you flipped the page and penned a legacy that no one can ignore.